watching NotesIn9.
Hello, and welcome to NotesIn9. I'm David Leedy. Episode 112, Mobile Controls, Part 3. By the way, the new Star Trek movie absolutely rocks. Just in case you were wondering and didn't know that, I'm just letting you know. Public service announcement. Okay, so speaking of public service announcements, here's the links for the stuff that I provide to the community through the NotesIn9 brand. Here's the community links, XPages.info and OpenNTF, which we're going to talk about in a second. Stack Overflow is a great resource, yada, yada, yada. Okay, OpenNTF. Right now, they're running this Apathon contest, and they've done such a great job these last year or 2 years with these contests. We've had a lot of great projects and custom controls come through, especially for XPages. There's been a lot of prize monies given out, and they're doing it again. So currently, right now, they're in the middle of what they call the OpenNTF Apathon at apathon.openntf.org. And there's two individual contests there. There's an XPages version and a Connections version, and they both have their own links, which I threw up there. And one of the key guys, who's a great guy, he's a great developer, he's a great friend of the community, is Nicholas Heidloff. He works for IBM, but we still like him. Just kidding, IBM. And his Twitter is here. He's not hard to get a hold of. He's on most of the social networks. And what he can do for you is if you want to participate in the Connections contest, he can help square you away with a development image, I guess in the cloud somewhere, to get you like a Connections dev server and Domino server, just the whole, everything you need in one image for you to just basically do some development. And why would you want to do that kind of development? Because there are 10 different $1,000 prizes. I think there's five prizes for each contest, but don't quote me on that. Go to the site, because I forgot to read that part before this show. If this was a paid podcast, I probably would have done that ahead of time, but you get what you pay for. So anyway, so there's all this great prize money, and guess what? Here's the kicker. There's a rumor that the Connections contest has no entries currently. So if there are no entries, and you do anything that basically touches Connections, well, you do the math on your odds of winning a prize there. I suspect it's pretty good, but I was not a math major in school. So anyway, you can do anything that touches Connections for the Connections contest, the XPages contest. You can do a custom control. You can do a full app. You can do, maybe some kind of like framework to get people involved and, make custom controls out of jQuery Mobile or Bootstrap or Kendo UI or whatever. I'm just thinking off the top of my head here. But they're great contests. They do actually award prizes. There's $10,000 up for grabs here. So I highly recommend you checking it out, especially that Connections one. And I believe they run for at least another month. I think it's sometime next month. The contest closes out, but again, don't quote me on that. Go to the site and check it out. But it's great stuff. Okay, on with the show. We're going to talk about XPages, this mobile madness thing again. And Peter Presnell is coming back on the show to finish his 3-part series on mobile development. And Peter works for Red Pill Development. And Red Pill is this business partner that's just doing a lot with mobile. They've got this tool set, this new tool that can basically at least do a read-only front end automatically for many Domino Classic or Notes client databases. If you need to expose, if you have like a big portfolio, you want to expose those like en masse and stuff like that. They share a lot back with the community. I know some of them, like Nathan Freeman, is very active in the OpenNTF API, the new Java API that the community is writing, which looks absolutely awesome. Keith Strickland does a lot with blogs and sharing information that way. And Peter's all over the place himself as well. So check out, their stuff if you have needs for them. They're also all either current or former IBM champions. So it's just a very highly talented group there. Okay, with all that being said, let's go to the demo, and Peter is going to go through some educational information on the outline and data view controls.
G'day everyone, my name is Peter Presnell, and welcome to the third presentation in the series Using Mobile Controls for XPages. So if you missed the first 2 presentations and jump straight to this one, let me first provide a little background about myself. I work at Red Pill Development, an IBM business partner that helps companies modernize their portfolio of IBM Notes applications using a process known as asymmetric modernization. First, we're going to look at the outline control before moving on to the data view. The outline control is part of the XPages extension library. We can think of it as being very similar to the outline design element available in Notes Classic development since Notes R5. The outline control is more specific to mobile devices, but it has been customized to allow it to be used on mobile devices. To do this, we must set the render type to com.ibm.xsp.extlib.mobile-outline-navigator, and then set the tree renderer property to mobile accordion menu. We then add tree nodes to represent the structure of our outline. The outline control has an on-item-click event to attach code to be executed when any item in the outline is clicked. In mobile speak, this would be an on-tap event. A basic container node is used when we wish to create a group structure or branch in our outline tree. A container can comprise a combination of containers and leaf nodes. This structure is defined using the children property. The label property is used to provide the text that is displayed to represent the group in the outline. A basic leaf node is added to provide a link. For mobile applications, this is typically going to be an application page. To do this, we'll set the href property to pound, followed by the page name. Images can be added, and it is also possible to provide code that is executed when the specific outline entry is clicked or tapped. Here we see an example of an outline that has been rendered using the mobile theme. Container nodes are denoted by a down arrow on the right. When tapped, the content of the container is displayed and the icon becomes an up arrow. Leaf nodes are displayed using a right arrow to indicate selection will result in a transition to another page. And here we see part of the code that was used to generate the previous example. Now let's take a look at the data view. Again, this control is not specific to mobile devices, but it has been customized to support them. Here we see the structure of a data view control as displayed in a typical XPages application. The features shown in red, such as column titles and the details pager, are not supported in the mobile theme. The features shown in blue are features that have a partial implementation or characteristics you need to be wary of when using in the mobile theme. Here we see a direct comparison between the standard XPages theme and the mobile theme. This highlights the need to be careful in using just those features supported by both themes. If we look specifically at the mobile theme, we can see the basic structure provided. Facets are shown in yellow. At the top we have a pager area with 3 facets that can be used to add content above the view. Category rows are then added, followed by the documents themselves. For documents, the summary is shown on the top line. An optional icon is displayed to the left, and a detail facet can be used to show more information below the summary. Here we see some of the properties that can be specified for a data view. Many other properties are available, but most of the ones not shown here do not apply to the mobile theme. And here we see a list of the facets that are available to this control. A single summary column is provided to define the content of data rows in the view. You must provide the programmatic column name of an existing column in the view or folder. Unlike some other view controls, it cannot be a formula. The same column is used for all data rows, which does create some issues when the view or folder has response documents. Next, you need to define one category column for each category that appears in your view or folder. If you don't add all of them, the additional category rows will still display, but there will be no content. Icon columns can be used to add icons to data rows. Watch out with this one, as you may find it necessary to add additional styling to ensure they display nicely. The detail facet provides a way to add additional detail whenever a data row is displayed in the view. This is displayed immediately below the summary column. The detail facet is especially useful when a single summary column does not provide sufficient information to define each record. It can also be a useful way of dealing with views containing response documents, in which the response details are stored in a column that is only displayed for response documents. The data view will display a set number of rows. By default, the value is 30. Mobile applications typically do not use the traditional pager to navigate through multiple pages of data. Scrolling is done with the drag of a finger, and the user expects a simple way to get more rows added to the end, hence the need for add rows. We start by nominating the ID of the data view using the for property. We then specify the number of rows to be added. We can also control the disabling of a visual control when we have reached the end of the data in the view. Here we see a simple implementation of add rows. A more area has been added at the bottom of the view. Clicking on more will trigger the additional rows being added. Here we see the code behind this implementation. Another more complicated implementation is the infinite scroll, which automatically triggers the adding of more data when the user scrolls down to the end of the existing data. I won't cover that in this presentation, but look out for a follow-on from my colleague Keith Strickland that explains how to implement infinite scrolling. And finally, we will take a look at the form table. The form table is included as part of the XPages extension library, as denoted by the use of the XE tag. The form table is not specific to mobile, but it is a control that has been customized to support the mobile theme. Because of this, I would strongly recommend to anyone likely to be extending XPage applications to support mobile devices that they use this control wherever they can as a way to represent data. The form table is a little like the basic HTML table. It has a form table outer control along with rows and columns. We will not be covering form columns in this session as they are not well suited for use with mobile applications. We can assign a title to the table using the form title property. Form description can be used to add extra information which is displayed below the title. We can disable the use of the required marks. Field, help and label position are not fully supported in the mobile theme, so only use these in conjunction with the standard XPages themes. With a form table, we usually add one or more rows. Label is used to assign the label text for the content of the row. The for property is used to designate the ID of the input control. This is largely used with accessibility features within the browser. Label position is ignored by the mobile theme, so again, only use this to affect the display in standard XPages themes. After we've defined the table, we will now add an input control to display the content from our notes document, and optionally allow for its content to be edited. To nest tables, we must first add a row to the outer table and then place the nested table inside that row. Here we see an example of a form table rendered using the mobile theme. We have our title and description appearing at the top inside a rounded rectangle. In this example, we have nested a second form table inside the first. The label is displayed using the input control to make best use of the available screen real estate. Here is part of the code that was needed to produce the previous example. The code corresponds to the first nested table. Finally, to assist with navigation between our pages, we may want to establish a breadcrumb. Because the mobile controls don't have a complete set of events defined for them, we are using the rendered property for the mobile heading as a way of storing details about the page in a session scope variable. The page that we use to represent our data can then use the contents of the session scope variable to populate the text and page details for the back button. Here is that previous example, taking note here, the back button, which has been populated using the breadcrumb technique. That concludes our presentation. If you have watched one or more of the 3 parts, I hope you have found them useful. Now it's time to get out there and create some great looking mobile apps using XPages and the mobile controls.
And that's the demo. I thank Peter for coming on with this series. I really appreciate it. And if you have any questions for me, here's my contact information, and I thank you for your time.